My voice, like, cracked there. Holy shit. Anyways. I'm very impressed by the way Panda Bear handles his Ravagers, and I'm not surprised that he decided to go that route in that last game. With that in mind, a lot of players have been going for the very Ling Bling style, but he decided to go for the Ravagers after that Reaper opener. So. We'll have to see on this match. King Sejong Station, I think a lot of players would consider it a map where Terran has a lot of initiative, not necessarily is imbalanced, but there's a lot of things you got to prepare for against Terran. For example, you have, let's just look at it. You have this side over here. You've got these rocks that can be used for tank drop and multi-level pushes. You've got the fact that the minerals are facing the other side of the map, which makes it very easy to drop and use Liberators. Of course, the same things can be said for, like, Mutas, but I think it's more common we see drops and Liberators than we see Mutas nowadays. But there are just several things, and once you get to past 3 bases, you can kind of cut the map in half relatively well. It's no Dust Towers or anything like that, but this is definitely one of the maps that you'll sometimes see get cut in half. So we'll have to see what ends up happening here. It looks like Zeno opting for the Reaper Expo. On the other side, we've got Panda Bear Me and the gas pool after the hatch. So this is the gold standard of TVZ right now. There's nothing special here to really point out. I guess we can talk about Overlord placements. These are actually very important. So Overlord placements in every matchup, and especially TVZ, which is probably the most affected matchup by where your Overlords are. Well, ZVZ is a very obvious one. But those are very obvious Overlord placements. Like, you want to have them in front, so you see Zerglings coming out, you see a push, you see if they're getting a third, you have them in the middle of the map to see if they're moving through with units, you have them outside your base. You can't do that against Terran and Protoss, especially, because they have things like Marines that can shoot down your Overlords if they're just hanging out, puns intended. So it looks like Panda, he's opting for an Overlord towards the back, and an Overlord at the front for this high ground. Yeah, there's Reaper harassing. That shouldn't do anything if they don't fuck up. Whatever. So some players will actually send an Overlord already out to the side, preparing for later on. It appears Panda wants to use this Overlord for scouting earlier on. For example, when I was watching Nurchio, he sent an Overlord. His first Overlord went to here, in the most obvious location, and then immediately was sending Overlords out to these sides to be prepared, eventually for drops, or maybe if a Liberator's slipping around earlier on. So it's a bit of a stylistic choice in those Overlords, because you only have a finite amount early on. Alright. And we were talking about those rocks. Of course, Panda has played on this map before. He understands the risks and the things you got to prepare for early on. So we're already working on these rocks to make sure they're down by the time they can be a threat. On the other side, we have the classic double medevac play. We'll have to see if there's anything special. I think Panda will go in, look for the second barracks, and once he sees it, try to dip out. Yeah, he's already brought the Overlord. Oh, he had Overlord speed on the way. I wasn't paying attention to that. So he's opting for that as well. I like that, bringing the Overlord in slightly before the speed, so that way you can get a beat on where his Marines are as well. Not that that's a huge deal, but a little bit cheeky there. So there are a couple different flavors of how Zeno wants to do this. One, you just go for the double drop with maybe a light follow-up. Two, you add on additional barracks afterwards and you continue to go for the pressure. Three, immediately go into a third base, or four, double NG bay. Usually players will do a combination of these two things, and that's why Panda is partly coming in again. He wants to try to get a bead on exactly which flavor it's going to be. Based on the fact... Okay, he's taking the gas on the low ground. I'm going to make a judgment call. I'm going to say he's going to go for double NG bay here very soon. And once again, I have not seen these replays. It's just because he's taking a second gas. He doesn't look like he's opting for a third command center, and he's not adding an add-on immediately or any additional barracks, which he would be doing if the gas plus the lack of additional barracks and no add-on on the factory lend themselves, and also because this is what Beyond did recently. Whatever Beyond does, everybody else just tries to copy. So Now we see him coming in. He gets vision. He sees nothing else on here. And he has vision of the double NG Bay at the front. So Panda knows exactly what he's dealing with. He shouldn't take critical damage. He shouldn't take critical damage to this. Zergling's already out, and he has that heavy queen count to start. A bit of a lack of creep towards the main. That could be a bit of a mistake. But the rocks are down, so they can't be used against him. The drone shouldn't still be here. He's losing the drones, but there we go. We see enough. And neither player should take massive damage. This is probably the most common spread of builds nowadays, especially on this map. Alright, now do we see the third command center or additional barracks being added on? There's the third CC. And it looks like Zeno not going to commit to any sort of really heavy pressure. I think he already realizes the queen count is too high. And Panda has invested in so many Zerglings early on that he's not going to have a massive economy that he needs to try to punish. So, I mean, it's not like he needed to make any of these decisions. This is actually just what you normally do. But sometimes you make adjustments based on maybe they don't have that many queens and you go for a little bit more drop pressure or something like that. And he kills a queen, as long as he doesn't lose. Oh, nice split there. Nice split second reaction time by Panda. Let's talk about what Panda's doing for a second. As the Zeno going for the upgrades, he's adding on the Rex. He's exploding in economy. So what is the choice here out of Panda? He's got his lair done. He doesn't have that much gas income. So he's kind of forced to stay on this Zergling Baneling. And we see him investing in the 2-2 upgrades before an infestation pit or Baneling speed or anything. Is the Baneling nest done? Yeah, it's done. That should be the next investment, is Baneling speed. Once again, a nice split off. But now, there are a couple different strategies. Does he want to go for the really heavy Ling Bling and just stay on Ling Bling? Because that's what some players do nowadays. Does he want to go up to Hive Tech as early as relatively possible, which isn't that early, but be working his way to Hive Tech? Or does he want to go for the Spire? The most uncommon is the Spire. The most common is probably that really heavy Ling Baneling, but eventually working to Ultralisks. Right now, once again, this is pressure that should not be deadly, but also can't be ignored. This is a very annoying position, but it's also very annoying on this side. This fourth base, the reason I think that Panda's expanding, and a lot of players opt to expand for this base as opposed to this side, is this way you have a consolidated central point. This is also a very nice run-by timing, by the way. That run-by actually going to get a decent chunk of SCVs. He's targeting down the fresh mules as well. Zeno trying to do something on the other side after realizing this isn't going to get any more done. But if you take this base as opposed to this base over here, you have a central point you can work off of. The Lings can move forward and move back. And if they can do that, then it's a little bit easier to defend on both sides against this heavy drop pressure. Oh, that's a Spire on the way. Will he see it? It looks like the Spire is going to be scouted immediately, so that's not ideal. Will we see the customary response here out of Zeno, I think, would be that heavy Widow Mine style. He's already got Widow Mines in production, but do we see an additional factory? He knows there's no Hive on the way, so this isn't like a quick play for Broodlords, which would be very uncommon. It would be very, very uncommon, especially against this style. But, any other factories? He's making more Liberators now. Liberators have been nerfed a bit against the Mutas. But at this point, there's no real anti-air to contest them. Huh. Okay. Oh god, Panda. Panda, what have you done? Nice. Okay. I was very scared about that Widow Mine connecting. So 2-2 is finished, and Zeno does not have 2-2. And this is actually a pretty big deal here. We see another Widow Mine at the front. There's no more Banelings to really connect. So Panda's supply is dropping incredibly drastically very quickly. You have to have the Banelings. Once you run out of Banelings, you just can't do anymore. We've got Mutas on the way, but once again, I'm surprised that's not Corruptus. He sees Liberators in production. He sees the Medivac count. I feel like Corruptors are a better choice here because Mutas aren't really a great counter to the Liberators, and the Liberators are starting to gain in number, and the Medivacs are the real threat on the ground. Of course, the Mutas also have that anti-ground capability. Oh god, that Widow Mine connects, and there's just not that many more Banes. I'm looking at these armies. It's looking like Zeno's just going to be able to... He finished his 2-2. There's no Hive on the way. There's no macro hatch as well. There's another hatch on the way on the 5th base in the middle, but there's no way he can swing around, and now there's no real counter for these Liberators. This has been getting a lot more popular. I lost to this today. Was this really heavy Liberator mid-game? Even if they don't go Spire? I mean, especially if they don't go Spire, because eventually you just chip down the units. That's a lot of Mutas, and there are not that many Widowmines. So if he gets one decisive engage, the Mutas could carry their momentum across the map. I really do feel like Corruptors are a stronger choice here, but here we go. He's going to draw out the Widowmine shots. There's no bio to help buffer, and that's actually really big, though. He's going to clean up the Liberators. Still doing a lot of splash damage, though, and that's going to allow the bio to... Oh, God. And I believe about half the Mutas just went down. The supply count dropping drastically there with those Mutalisks, and there's just nothing really left on the ground. Good splits out of Zeno off a creep. And the Mutalisks are evaporating now that they've been brought so deep into the red. Yeah, there goes the 4th base. There's another base in the middle, but is that going to have much of an impact? The 4th base of Zeno is finishing up. I feel like Panda overextended, and then going for the Mutas was not the right choice. Panda overextended with no Banelings, so he didn't have that map control of having a big group of Zerglings. And then going for Mutalisks, which are countered by Bio and by Liberators, as opposed to Corruptors to wipe out all the air units. I mean, he's still fighting it back. If Zeno makes a big mistake, but... At this point is when you kind of just hold down the Marine Marauder Liberator button, and you try not to get hit by 20 Banelings at once. As a Zerg player without a Hive in this position, you feel like, well, I guess we're still going here. And, I mean, he's got the Zerglings moving forward. He's going to draw the Widowmine shots, but the supplies tell the story. He's winning the fight, but he's losing the war. The Mule Hammer comes down. The creep is actually infringing directly onto the soon-to-be planetary. A little bit of a lull in the action, but this is an uphill battle. And he just keeps sliding. At this point, it takes a big mistake out of Zeno here. We got the Liberators on either side on the mineral lines denying mining. This means the bio can move up unhindered. Another round of Banelings might be the last gasp here. It's 50 supply gap. Even if the Widowmines work for the Zerg here, which a couple no, a 4th base. No, this is how a Zerg dies. Yeah, a huge Zergling run by, but if there's one thing Zeno doesn't need right now, it's SCVs. It looks like the hard wall is up. It looks like I have no idea what I'm talking about. He's going for the triple, but he does choke it off. The bio units are actually going, almost taking out the base. The Liberator is still in position. It got 10 kills here. I'm not sure what those were of, but... He's quarantined all his bases. The Zerglings are slowly but surely getting cleaned up. And Panda has tried to fight it back, but this is a map where you lose momentum, and it's very easy for your opponent, especially in TVZ, to push through. So, I feel like this is one of those, like, well, maybe he'll A-move into Banelings, and I will get lucky, but this is watching a Zerg player. GG. Alright, there you go. And he taps out. Finally, the Liberators close the distance. They bring the freedom to the final 4th base, and he's going to be forced to tap out. I think the mistake there, I think the Spire was okay, but it got scouted so early. And then it got, he opted for the Mutas instead of Corruptors as well. I think if he had Corruptors and he's able to swipe away, like maybe he loses the 4th base, but if he can take out all the Medivacs and Liberators during it, he can kind of reset the game a little bit. But in going for the Mutas, he gave another unit that the unit composition already countered. So the Mutas, I think, were a mistake. They're also a good comeback unit, but not against someone like Zeno, probably, to be honest. All right. What race do you want to see the most, guys, in the next match? Exclamation point, vote 1 for Terran, vote 2 for Zerg, vote 3 for Protoss. We'll take the top 2 races, and we'll put them together, or we'll do a mirror. I haven't done any mirror matches yet, so...